her dress, feeling exposed, surrounded by the crowd of people drinking and dancing. The loud music and dimly lit atmosphere added to her unease. Dmitri waved at his friends and led her towards them. "This is Wine, my wife," he said to his friends who greeted her. Wine just nodded while one of the girls came forward and whispered something into Dmitri's ear. He chuckled, holding her, and whispered back. The girl nodded, kissing him on the cheek, and went away. Wine pursed her lips, glaring at them. Dmitri's friends went to the dance floor, gesturing something in sign language to which he nodded. "Come, Wine, have a drink." He sat her and handed her the glass. "I don't drink, Dmitri," she said with a blank face. "Come on, Wine, just a little," he insisted. She held the glass from him. "Well, Wine, there's someone who wants to meet you." She passed him a questioning gaze. "You'll know once he calls you. He just wants to see you." "Who is he? Why does he want to meet me?" Dmitri composed himself. "He is my business partner. We're working on a new project and he just wants to see you, that's all." She nodded reluctantly. Dmitri's friends called him to the dance floor. As soon as he was gone, Wine kept away the glass and drew a deep breath. She felt suffocated for some unknown reasons. Her eyes landed on Dmitri, who was dancing with the same girl. He leaned and kissed her. Wine stood staring at him with wide eyes. She gritted her teeth when her phone constantly beeped with notifications. She saw the notifications from B saying, "Get out of that place if you want no harm to yourself and your dignity. Dimitri's so-called business partners men will be here to take you to his private room. A cab is waiting for you out there." One let out a shaky breath, not understanding what to do when two muscular men came towards her. "Miss Wine, right?" She nodded with a thumping heart and glanced at Dmitri, who was making out with the girl in a corner. Her vision blurred with tears. "Sir is waiting for you in the room. Please come with us." "Okay, I'll just use the restroom and come." The guys exchanged glances and nodded. Wine walked away with trembling feet and escaped from their eyes. As we said, a cab was waiting for her. She arrived home and changed, lying on the bed staring at the ceiling blankly. Tears rolled down her eyes when the main door closed, indicating Dmitri was back. She wiped her face and sat. Dmitri entered the room, glaring at her. "Why did you come home without informing me?" he asked in a serious tone. She stood in front of him. "Don't you have any shame? In front of me you are making out with some other girl." She spoke through gritted teeth. Dmitri rolled his eyes. "She means nothing to me. I just have fun with her." He shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Wine clenched her fist. "I never knew you were so shameless, Dmitri. That's not important right now. Do you know how angry Mr. Blanchard was at me?" He held her shoulders. "Why exactly do you want me to meet him? Just tell me." He stepped back and stared at her for a moment. "I want to get the new project with him, but he's not giving it to me." He pursed his lips. "He has seen you in a picture with me and he wants to spend the night with you in order to give him the project." One stared at him in disbelief and raised her hand, slapping him across the face. "What do you think of me? You're basically selling me," she said through teary eyes. Dmitri glared at her. "How dare you?" He grabbed her by the hair harshly. "Leave me, you bastard. I was a fool to believe your sugar-coated words." "Shut up, you must go to him," he growled, tightening his grip, while he struggling to break free from his grasp. "I'll not go to him. In fact, I'll divorce you." He slapped her thrice in a row and released her with a jerk. "You must do what I say," he said and walked out, slamming the door. Wine sat on the floor and burst into tears. After a few minutes, her phone rang. She answered the call, seeing V's caller ID. "Wine," she sobbed silently. "Are you crying? What happened?" he asked anxiously. "V, you were right. I should have believed you. Dmitri wants me to spend the night with that guy. I should have believed you earlier. He's not the same Dmitri I knew. He never talked to me harshly, but today he even raised his hand on me and clenched his jaw. He hit you." "Yes." She sniffed. "Who are you? How did you know about it all? And why did you say you want to help me?" she asked in a low tone. "I'm a melee worker in a factory. I know Dmitri because he's my friend, but we aren't that close." "And why are you helping me?" He let out a sigh. "Because I love you." "What? Have we met?" "Yes, but you didn't notice me. Anyway, what will you do with Dmitri?" "I'll divorce him." in response, they talked for a while and declined the call. Time skip. Weeks passed, but nothing changed between Dimitri and Wine. Dimitri tried to convince her, but Wine was adamant on her decision. They became distant. She sleeps in the living room, and they barely interact with each other. Meanwhile, Wine grew attached to V. He is a great support to her in this hard time, as Wine couldn't even tell her parents anything as she didn't want them to worry. While Dimitri locks her in the house when he goes to the office. Now Dimitri arrived home and found Wine in the living room staring at the television screen. He sat beside her and held her hand. Wine, she released her hand from his grip without sparing a glance at him. Dimitri clenched his jaw. I'm sorry, Wine, I didn't mean to hurt you. He held her chin and turned her to face him. I am doing all this for us. We'll have a peaceful life ahead. We are doing it for you. There is no us. She stood but he held her wrist. Leave it all. Let's go out for dinner. I'll just freshen up. He walked to the bedroom. After making sure he was gone, Wine picked up her phone and dialed V's number. V, she said as soon as he answered the call. Yes. His soft tone made her heart flutter. Dimitri is taking me out for dinner. I want you to come there and meet me. I want to see you. He went silent for a while. Why? You talk so beautifully. I'm curious about how you look. He chuckled. You wouldn't like me if you saw me. You might get scared. Why are you that ugly? She asked jokingly. Yes, I'm that ugly and also I'm poor. But still I want to see you. He remained silent. Please, me. Wine heard him sigh. Okay, fine. Send me the location. She grinned widely. Okay. After declining the call, Wine went to get ready. They both were ready to go when Wine casually asked him to which restaurant they were going. She then sent the address to him and said they were heading out. Soon they arrived at the restaurant while Dimitri noticed her glancing at her phone from time to time. They sat and Dimitri ordered the food. Are you looking for someone? He asked as she was looking around. No, why would I look for anyone? She composed herself and said calmly. Dimitri nodded while the waiter served the food. They ate in silence while Wine was anxiously glancing at her phone. Dimitri went to pay the bill and Wine texted him. Where are you? She anxiously waited for his reply. In your heart. Stop flirting, tell me where are you? Dimitri came and gestured for her to follow him. She let out a sigh and walked out of the restaurant. She sat in the car when her phone beeped. I was in the parking lot. She pursed her lips. You're just playing with me. I'm just embarrassed by my looks. She left him unseen and leaned back, closing her eyes. Few days later. Since then, Wine was ignoring Theon's calls and texts until he said that he was going out of the city. Wine quickly called him and he said he wouldn't contact her until he returned. She spent all these days gloomily while Dimitri was pressuring her to cooperate with him. She wanted to talk to him but he didn't answer her calls. When she argued with Dimitri, he angrily went into the bedroom while Wine sat crying when her phone rang. She angrily answered the call seeing V's caller ID. Where were you? I have been calling you. Why didn't you answer my calls? Why are you crying? Did Dimitri say anything to you? He asked angrily. Does that matter to you? You say you love me, then why don't you take me out of here? I feel suffocated here. She didn't realize her voice was high and Dimitri was home. Theo went silent. You're just playing with me. Who is it? She stood with a racing heart while her phone fell from her hands. I asked who is it. He growled, striding to her. None of your business. He hit her on the face. Theo's heart clenched upon hearing her cries. Leave her, Dimitri. I'll forget you're my brother if you harmed her. He yelled and cursed Dimitri, but only if he could hear it. I'm coming, Wine, he mumbled. You're cheating on me. He slapped her several times and grabbed her by the hair. You are the one who cheated, bloody shameless man. She struggled to break free from his grip. Dimitri pushed her and hit her head on the wall. Wine fell as the blood oozed from the back of her head. She heard commotion and with blurred vision, saw someone barged in and everything blacked out. Time skip. It's been 4 months since then. Wine woke up after 2 days in the hospital and asked the nurse who brought her here. The nurse said her husband brought her, but she lost consciousness and woke up after 15 days in her house. She asked her parents who brought her. They said it was a guy named V, and also Dimitri sent the divorce papers. Wayne called V, but his phone was switched off. With the passing time, she realized how hard she had fallen for him. Meanwhile, Kem was scared to appear in front of Wayne, thinking how will she react after knowing Kem and V were the same person who was none other than her ex-brother-in-law. He wanted to think of a way to get her at any cost. Wayne got a job and life came back to the normal path, but she felt an emptiness inside her. No one arrived home from the office when she frowned at seeing him. What is he doing here? She asked her mom with a frown, who glared at her in response. What do you mean? Kem stared at her intensely. Wayne, come here, we need to talk. She sat across from her dad. You know Kem has brought you She cut in. I know, and I'll not marry you. No, get lost from here, she said rudely. Behave, Wayne. He snapped at her. Wayne pursed her lips, realizing her harsh tone. Mr. Yun, I would like to talk to her in private if you don't mind. Mr. and Mrs. Yun changed glances. They walked away while Kem stood in front of Wayne. I have been pestering for so long. Why don't you agree? Wayne felt his gaze piercing through her soul. I didn't tell you to bring me a proposal. I don't want to marry you, can't you get it? She said in a low tone, looking at him. Why? Give me a reason. Isn't it enough that you're Dimitri's brother? Kem clenched his jaw. That doesn't make me like him. We can make legal documents from the court. You can sue me anytime. If I don't treat you well, I can. She cut in. I like someone else, in fact I love him. He stared at her blankly. What? He mumbled. I stood and nodded. But it's a pity I can't marry him. Neither can I ever see him. I just want to live with his memories. Her voice broke. Kem clenched his fist. Why? Who is it? V. I love V. I haven't seen him. I just heard his voice. I fell in love with his tone voice and beautiful words. She blinked back her tears and fixed her gaze on Kem. You got your answer. Why I don't want to marry you. Now you may leave and never return. Kem composed himself, showing his hands in his pockets. You can't marry him, so there's no chance for him. I won't back off. Think about it thoroughly. He said and walked out, not being able to look into her eyes. He felt guilty all over seeing her tears and helpless tone. He felt as if someone was slicing his heart apart. Time skip. Wayne's parents emotionally blackmailed her to marry him, as they had liked him from the start. They wanted him to marry her instead of Dimitri, but his parents brought Dimitri's proposal. Kem tried his best to get their trust, which he got, but Wayne was adamant about her decision. She decided to move out of the house, but her parents said yes to Thane's proposal. Today she finally got married to Thane, and now she was standing in his room, staring at the reflection in the dressing mirror. Her eyes welled up with tears as the thought of V crossed her mind. She wanted to talk to him once and question him. What kind of love was this? Why did he leave her hanging? Why did he end contact with her after making her attached to him? She blinked away her tears and let out a sigh. They entered the room and closed the door. They both stared at each other's reflection in the mirror as he stepped close to her. Where are your parents? Do they know about this marriage? She turned to face him and asked. Yes, they know. They're out of the city with Dimitri. He held her hand and placed it on his heart. Wayne's heart skipped a beat as soon as her palm came in contact with his muscular chest. I hope you accept me in our relationship. He spoke softly, staring at her affectionately. I don't know if I can maintain this relationship or not. Don't expect anything from me, she said coldly. He intertwined his fingers with hers and leaned closer to her face. You being by my side matters the most. His warm breath was against her cheek as he whispered, just let me love you and cherish you. His lips brushed against her earlobe. His presence was overwhelming. His closeness was intoxicating. Wayne's breath went uneven. But I love someone else, she murmured. She could feel her heart beating against her ribcage. His proximity made her knees go weak. You'll love me. I'll consume your thoughts, your heart, your dreams, and your soul. His voice was filled with earnestness that took away her breath. Kem released her hand when she felt a cold metal around her neck. Wayne touched in and looked down. It was a beautiful diamond necklace. "Thank you," she whispered. Theon smiled, leaning to her neck and tilting his head. His lips pressed against her neck with feather-like kisses. Each touch was soft and legally sending shivers down her spine as he moved gently along the curve of her neck. "Theon, I want to change." Her voice trembled as she held his shoulders. Theon pulled away and nodded. Wayne walked into the washroom while Theon let out a deep sigh. After some time, she came out and found him already changed and lying on the bed. "Come here," he said, tapping beside him. She reluctantly laid on the edge of the bed, facing her back to him. Theon snaked his arm around her waist and pulled her close to his chest. "Good night," he mumbled, inhaling her scent and snuggling into her neck. Wayne lay still, muddled up in thoughts and confused about her feelings. She could feel a strange connection to him. Few days later, Wayne felt a strange pull towards Theon. The way he cares for her and understands her makes her heart flutter. Now she was lost in her thoughts when the maid said a guest had come. Wayne made her way to the guest room, feeling uneasy. As soon as she entered, her eyes widened, seeing Dmitri. "Dear ex," he said with a smirk. "He really married you." Wayne remained rooted to her spot. "Come and sit, I have something to talk about." "But I don't want to talk to you." She turned around to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Don't you want to know about your V?" She looked at him confusingly. Dmitri gestured for her to sit. She sighed with a racing heart. "You might not know your husband, who is none other than my brother, fooled you. We and Theon are the same person. He got me to divorce you on gunpoint." One stared at him in disbelief. "You are lying," she mumbled. Dmitri chuckled. "Let's confirm it." He slid out his phone and dialed Theon's number, keeping it on speaker. On the fifth bell, Theon answered the call. "Why did you call me?" he asked coldly. "Just want to ask you something," he said with the same coldness. "Go on. Why did you portray yourself as we in front of Wayne? Why did you lie to her?" And pursed her lips, staring at the phone in his hand. "That's none of your business. I did what I thought was right. Don't call me again." Her heart sank. She stared at the phone in disbelief. "I'm in your house. Wayne is right here in front of me and she's hearing it all. Wayne, go back to your room right now. I'm on my way." "Dmitri, you won't go alive today." He yelled angrily. Dmitri chuckled and declined the call. Wayne walked back to their shared bedroom in a daze. She sat and stared at an invisible point. After some time, the door opened and closed, but she didn't spare a glance at it. "Wayne," he said in a low tone and sat in front of her. She remained still. "Wayne, look at me." He held her hand, but she moved away her hand. "Are you V?" He pursed his lips. She looked at him coldly. "Listen to me," she cut in. "I don't want to listen to anything. Just answer me. Are you V?" she said in a sharp tone. Theon nodded, lowering his head. She stared at him with blurred vision and climbed out of the bed. "Where are you going?" He held her arm and stopped her. Tears rolled down her eyes and she released her hand with a jerk. "We are over, Theon. I'll send you the divorce papers," she said, wiping her face. "Don't even think of it. I'll never divorce you. I know I did wrong, but that doesn't mean you can leave me so easily. We can talk about it." He held her by the wrist and pulled her closer. "There's nothing to talk about. You lied to me and made fun of me. Being a fool, I was crazy for we not knowing you are the both same person." She yelled and wiggled in his embrace. He bit his lips, staring at her with agony. "You didn't even have any intentions of telling me if Dmitri hadn't told me. You brothers really know how to break a person." She began hitting him on the chest. "I didn't mean to hurt you." She chuckled bitterly. Dmitri said the same. "I'm not Dmitri. Don't compare me with him." She broke free from his grip. "I don't want to see you," she said and strided out, leaving him. Then slumped on the floor, gripping his hair. Time skip. It's been more than a month since Wayne left Theon's house. Her parents were angry at her as they thought she did wrong to Theon. He just helped her out. Theon came to take her back, but she was adamant on not going back. He would sneak into her room every night. It's been a week since Theon hasn't sneaked into her room. Wayne's feelings deceived her. She missed his embrace and his touch. Today Mr. and Mrs. Kim came to take her back and spend time with her. They apologized for Dimitri's doings, but she got to know that Theon had told them He sent her to her parents' house because he was on a business trip and she was alone. The wine was lying on the bed with closed eyes, lost in a deep thoughts, when she felt a hand snake around her waist. She gasped slightly but then relaxed, inhaling his familiar cologne. "Stay still, I want some peace, please," he mumbled, burying his face in her hair. After some time she heard him snoring softly. Wine turned to face him, moving away from him. She turned and dozed but didn't fall asleep. Letting out a sigh, she held his hand and stared at it. He had bruises on his knuckles. "Can't sleep?" she heard his husky voice. "No." He pulled her to his chest and held her tightly. "I'm sorry, Wine. Please don't leave me again. I know I did wrong, but that time I couldn't reveal myself. You're Dimitri's wife and I was your brother-in-law. I thought you might think I'm just flirting with you. Besides, you better know how you would have reacted," he said in a low tone, Wine propped on her elbows. "Why didn't you tell me before our marriage?" she asked in a serious tone. "I was scared you might not agree to marry me. You were already against our marriage." He caressed her face with the back of his hand softly. "Why did you help me and even marry me?" He smiled widely. Wine was mesmerized by his smile. "The first time I saw you, I wanted to make you mine, but unfortunately that day my parents came to fix your marriage with Dimitri, and you never noticed me. Since then I had my eyes on you and Dimitri. The day I discovered Dimitri's evil intentions, I got a chance to protect you." He kissed her chin. Wine nodded and laid her head on his chest. "That's true. I never noticed you. Thank you for helping me out." She placed a soft kiss on his chest, then closed his eyes and tightened his embrace. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Don't keep secrets from me again." He looked at her and nodded. "Stop kissing." He glared at her and giggled and licked his earlobe. Then curled and clenched his fist. She peppered soft kisses from his jaw to neck. "You brought this on yourself." He switched the position, hovering over her, and without giving her a chance, he smashed his lips on hers. Wine tangled her fingers in his hair and pulled him further close, deepening the kiss.